I feel so tall. I've got on heels, and I'm standing on this platform. Good morning. Good morning, Madam President, Board of Trustees, members of the faculty, students, families, and friends. I just wish to thank you for the privilege of being here today and addressing you on this wonderful occasion. We gather on this beautiful, beautiful morning in May to celebrate you, the graduates, and to celebrate all your achievements, your successes, perhaps certain failures, your courage, your doubts, and your passion. To celebrate your commencement and to mark the beginning of a new chapter in your young lives. This is a day to feel proud and to congratulate yourselves on your hard work and intelligence, and then to simultaneously give thanks for the extraordinary opportunity that has been given to you. To acknowledge the professors you've been privileged to study with, to acknowledge the excellent education you have received in this rarefied atmosphere, and then, of course, to give thanks to those who enabled you to be here. The possibilities and limitations now spread out before you. Whatever field you have decided to go into, whether it be the sciences, the arts, the humanities, you have the opportunity now to make a better world, to benefit mankind, to ease the suffering of others, to educate, to heal, to entertain, to illuminate. A new beginning and a rising. How lucky you are. How glorious for you. William Blake wrote, "My fingers emit sparks of fire with expectations of my future labors." When I mentioned to a friend that I was writing a commencement speech, he asked me what my theme was. Now that really threw me. Nobody had told me that I needed a theme. And I'm not good at themes. So I don't really have one per se. I hope that's not a great disappointment. I do wish that I could be funny or profound, but that is wishful thinking. So what I have to offer you today are just some thoughts, that I'd like to share with you. And if it feels random, it probably is. I look out at your faces, and I would guess that most of you graduates are 22 years old. I think of the world I was living in at that age, 22. Was very different from yours, and yet ominously similar. At 22, for me, the Vietnam War was in its 7th year. Nixon was employing round-the-clock bombing. We were destroying the infrastructure, the people, and the countryside of Vietnam to save it from the communists. History repeats itself. Today, for you at 22, the Iraq War is in the 6th year. Thousands of American soldiers killed, tens of thousands wounded, hundreds of thousands of Iraqis dead, the infrastructure and land destroyed to save it, and this has been a movable feast, first from tyranny and now from terrorists. Now, some of you may feel that this is not the proper occasion to make mention of this. However, I would be remiss in addressing a group of young adults if I were to deliberately ignore the political realities that they are faced with. We are all citizens of a troubled world, and yet it is your generation that will carry the weight of the future on your shoulders. We're living in an America that in the last 7.5 years has waged an unnecessary war, established prison camps, condoned torture, employed corporate armies, eliminated the right of habeas corpus, practiced extraordinary rendition, and believe me, this is only a partial list. I had to keep myself in check. I don't wish to dwell on the misery caused by this administration, but that legacy is being passed directly down to you. It is a heavy burden to inherit and will require tremendous dedication and hard work to put it right again. You must determine if we are going to measure ourselves on the basis of military might or economic power, or if there is perhaps something deeper, more essential in our national character that needs to be awakened. We must commit ourselves wholeheartedly to the pursuit of peace, equality, and justice. This should be the realm of your dreams, the altruistic motivation you go forward with as you are moving towards a world unknown. I believe you've come of age in a complex and confusing time. The commercial forces surrounding you, the absence of meaningful culture, the constant assault by media, fashion, and entertainment, we've become a society that is placated by gadgets, soothed by consumerism and the empty rewards of upward mobility, the celebration of mediocrity and false celebrity. The obscurations the obscurations of modern life. We need a sea change. So I encourage you not to buy into it. Defy conventions and what is expected of you. Create your own definition of success. Don't let it be judged or guided by someone else's measurements, by someone else's expectations or limitations. You are our hope. So cherish this time in your life. Remember who you are, because right now you have it all. The power of your imagination, the velocity of your dreams, the language of innocence, and the passion of a beginner. Don't lose it. Don't let it evaporate or get stripped away or worn away. And as time passes, if you find that you've come far away from yourself, allow the breeze of humility to remind you of who you were, of who you really are. Henry James said, "To live is such an art." If from my vantage point now, I could tell my 22-year-old self what I now believe is the most important thing in life, and one that I didn't fully embrace at the time because I was young and willful and reckless, it would be to be present. I would encourage you with all my heart to just be present. Be present and open to the moment that is unfolding before you, because ultimately your life is made up of moments. So don't miss them by being lost in the past or anticipating the future. Don't be absent from your own life. You will find that life is not governed by will or intention. It is ultimately the collection of these sense memories stored in our nerves, built up in our cells. Simple things. A certain slant of light on a winter's afternoon, the sound of spring peepers at twilight, the taste of a fresh-picked strawberry still warm from the sun, your child's laughter, your mother's voice. These are the things that shape our lives and settle into the fiber of our beings. Don't take them for granted. Slow down for them. They will take root. And someday, 20, 30, 40 years from now, you may be going about your day, one by chance. The smell of bread baking or the sound of a mockingbird singing will stop you in your tracks and carry you, heart and soul, back to yourself. Moments of pure happiness, bliss, if you feel comfortable using that word, come upon you unexpectedly. Don't be too preoccupied to experience them. We need to slow it all down. I wonder sometimes why we can't just sit and do nothing. Why we can't enjoy idleness, the art of doing nothing. Perhaps it's not in our cultural DNA. We are goal-oriented, result-driven. Success is measured in how much we can get done. We seem to have no time for stillness. And I wonder, what is this desperate need we have to fill the emptiness with iPods and Blackberries and cell phones and computers and video games and television? Perhaps we should ask ourselves, how do we really understand pleasure and happiness? The Tibetan Buddhists have a saying, tomorrow or the next life, which comes first? We never know. So I encourage you, don't keep anticipating that your life is up ahead of you. Don't always be waiting for the next thing. Don't put all your energies into some idea of the future. And with that in mind, you open the door to endless possibilities. Just allow life to take you on an adventure. Be receptive to the winds of change. I graduated from high school in a worn-out little mill town in northern Minnesota. Art was going to be my way out. I went to the university on a scholarship and entered the fine arts program. I imagined I would study, get my BFA, go on to get my MFA, and devote my life to painting. But the second quarter of my freshman year, the drawing class I wanted was filled, and so at the last minute I signed up for a photography class. My photography instructor introduced me to a group of his friends, young photographers. They were all leaving for Spain to make a documentary about the flamenco gypsies in Andalusia. And they asked me, did I want to come along? Oh, yeah, I said. We lived in Europe for that year, and when we returned to the States, we settled in New York, the early Soho days. They had a friend they introduced me to. She was a modern dancer from Merce Cunningham Company, who was starting an experimental theater company. She asked me if I wanted to come and dance with them. Yeah, I said, yeah. A man who had worked with the great mime master, Etienne Decroux, was in New York and came to give us classes in mime. I fell in love with the technique, and when I learned that Decroux was still living and teaching in Paris, I decided I would go study with him. With $100 in my pocket and speaking absolutely no French, I went looking for this old man. I stayed and studied. I lived in Paris for the next 3 years taking classes, and I became a Parisienne. I felt I had finally settled in. I never, ever imagined leaving Paris. At the mime school, I met some actors from New York, and on a return visit to the States, I ran into one of them. He asked me if I wanted to come along to watch one of his acting classes to see what it was all about. Yeah. I wasn't doing anything, and I was curious. I discovered I had an immediate passion for acting. It seemed to bring everything together for me, everything that I had loved, everything I had studied, everything I knew. So I decided to stay in New York and study. And suddenly, my life was in New York. I was working as a waitress and taking acting classes. I imagined it would be a long and steady process. I'd study hard. I'd start auditioning first for showcase theaters, then off-Broadway, and work my way up until finally, someday, maybe Broadway. Then out of the blue one day, I was asked if I wanted to audition for a film. I would have to fly to Hollywood and do a screen test. Wow, that was like something out of an old movie. I didn't want to do film, but because my life I had planned, was supposed to be in the theater. But it was winter in New York. I was broke. I was sick of waitressing. And I heard that my sister was sailing up the coast from Mexico and would be in California. And I wanted to go see her, and it was a free ride. So I said, yeah, why not? I've got nothing to lose. They sent a car and picked me up from my 5th floor walk-up apartment in the Village, flew me to Los Angeles, took me to MGM to do a screen test. I did it, and they gave me the part. And so began a new and totally unexpected chapter in my life. So I guess the point I want to make is this. There was no way I could ever have anticipated or planned the twists and turns my life took in those 6 short years. Sometimes you just have to let life take you on its glorious journey. And the best time to do it is now, when you're young and full of curiosity and have no fear. Don't constrain yourself with expectations of success. Success will be a byproduct of the life you lead. And all success is individual. And sometimes, as in my case, it's completely accidental. So today, when you're setting off on your next adventure, you are beginning. And what makes beginnings so thrilling is the unknown. What is vital is this initial confrontation with the unknown, how you decide to embrace it. The world is waiting for you. Explore it through your own humanity. Be guided by your higher self. Don't be dissuaded or discouraged, but do allow yourself to be sidetracked if that's what you want. Get off the fast track, off the grid. Go out and wander. I hope that you will commit yourselves to the pursuit of peace, to the practice of tolerance and compassion, and be good stewards to our precious earth. I wish you all the courage to have an adventurer's heart and a life lived in the moment. Thank you.